Hi, everybody. Josh here. I just wanted to real quick tell you before this episode starts that it's going to sound like I'm mansplaining to Leia throughout this episode, and we really didn't want that to be the takeaway. The truth is that House of X, Powers of X is a very complicated graphic novel, and each of us only really got about half of it, so we had agreed that I could jump in more often than I normally would. So please let that be the takeaway, that we really just wanted the fullest experience of this graphic novel, and not that I was constantly jumping over Leia to try and take, some sort of mansplain position, because it was not our intent. So hopefully that does not detract from your enjoyment of this episode. So please enjoy.
RetConversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't elating me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome again to RetConversations. My name is Josh Wasta, aka Fallout Fieri, and my lovely and wonderful co-host, Leia Cameron, is here with me.
Yeah.
And Leia, you have been preparing for this week's episode.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been in communication. This is a big one.
That's definitely a prepared is a really generous term. I thank you for using it.
But before we get to what we are doing, let's talk about who we are doing it with. A special guest, Scott Sinclair, is here for us to explain House of X, Powers of X. Scott, welcome to the graphically novel universe, and welcome to RetConversations.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
So you are a first-time guest on a graphically novel production, and we have a little tradition where we like our guests to give us a little bit on your background with comic books. How do they influence your life? Where'd you start? Are they a big part of what you do? Hit us with a little bit of history.
I started in the 80s.
No shame in that. I think all of us did.
Primarily with the things that were actively on TV at the time. And for me, that was Transformers and G.I. Joe. And then I kind of fell off of it for a while, kind of picked up a little of this, little of that through middle and high school, but nothing regular, I suppose. And then in college, I met Josh. And
I'm not going to take all of the credit for that one. There were a lot of comic books nerds.
There were a lot of comics around, but in college there was a lot of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and Transmetropolitan, and there's your requisite Transmet reference for the day.
Love it. Yeah, I kind of walked like through the campus of Cornell College with kind of like, some people have chick tracks. I just had little blurbs on Transmetropolitan. I'm like, have you met our Lord and Savior Spider Jerusalem?
And since I kind of float in and out of comics, I'm roughly following The Few and the Cursed, which is Felipe Cogno's Kickstarter project that he just keeps putting out a book of about once or twice a year. Kind of a Mad Max, but with supernatural stuff. Dry desert world thing.
Cool.
So it's neat. He teamed up and made a board game of it, and that is lovely as well. But past that, I haven't really been in comics life as much. And then having kids, starting to try to get Daniel into something, but not really knowing what's likely to be appropriate, or is going to look fine and then isn't.
This Deadpool comic looks like it'll be fun.
Well, that was his own doing, because he is definitely an internet age child, and YouTube's absolutely everything, and dear God, that child loves his spoilers. So we've gone through the entire MCU, and Deadpool is one of the few general Marvel movies that he hasn't seen yet. That and the Old Man Logan Wolverine movie.
Oh, Logan. Yeah.
I was like, whichever title that was, I get them scrambled.
The hard R's.
Right.
Maybe not for an 8-year-old. I don't know.
Yeah, it was an excellent film, but I would not recommend it to an 8-year-old. No.
Yeah. So I'm starting to get back into it more, for him and trying to convince him to read physical media, rather than just videos. And comic seems to be our middle ground, because he'll read like Dogman and stuff like that. That's more cartoony, but also less wordy. So maybe your Captain Underpants would be the other like big name there. So stuff like that. And we're kind of I am trying to move him on to something that might have a little bit more substance.
Yeah. My 8-year-old niece, Phil's oldest daughter, loves Captain Underpants.
Mm-hmm. But he's 8, so
Well, so she.
So my this is neat is a little twisted towards what is appropriate for an 8-year-old.
Right, you got to temper it a little bit.
Right.
Awesome. Well, you have come to us and you wanted us to explain kind of what is the next step in the X-Men. If you're reading any X-Men books now, you kind of have to understand this plot. This is not the easiest plot to understand. It is packaged together. So these were originally 2 different theories. One was called House of X, one was called Powers of X. However, they were released at the same time and they are captured together in the graphic as House of X, then Powers of X #1, and then House of X #2, and then Powers of X #2. So the way it is presented, I'm sure Leia will get into, but also by Jonathan Hickman. So anybody that has... like I said, anybody that has ever read Dragonlance just kind of understands that he is not shy on the world building and the detail. So
no. Okay. That gives it a decent starting point. Also, wasn't there something about House of M, or am I hallucinating? Or is that unrelated? Okay.
No, there will be a House of M component to next time's episode when we do Secret Wars, which is another Jonathan Hickman that changed the universe. But House of X, Powers of X this season will be the most recent comic we do. It's only about 2.5 years old at this point, and it is where every X-Men comic for the last 2.5 years has come from, or you need this background to get back in X-Men comics. So if you're looking for a jump on point for yourself, Scott, there you go. Now you can pick up Excalibur or X-Force or the myriad of other X books after we successfully explain this to you. So your lesson today will be taught by Professor L. For people who have not listened to this podcast before, Professor L will take Scott through the plot of House of X, Powers of X. We may just refer to it as PoX moving forward. And at any time, Scott has the full power to stop this entire podcast, to pull the brakes on the train that is this podcast and ask whatever question he wants. At that point, it's my job to answer his question. And then I may reach out to Leia for help if I don't know the answer. And then if neither of us know the answer, maybe we'll Google. So take it away, Professor L. The floor is yours.
All right. So the first thing that you need to know is that when I was researching this, before I even picked it up, because I have not read anything recent in terms of X-Men, or at least this recent in terms of X-Men, like in quite some time. And an article that I saw about it said that you did not need any prior knowledge of the X-Men to jump into this, because it kind of restarts the X-Men. Essentially, this is a lie. I know I have a base of knowledge, like for the X-Men, right? Like I think most people do. Like everybody knows who Magneto is. They know who Professor X is, Jean Grey and Cyclops and whatnot. Like those are pretty common characters. But there were a lot of people that showed up here that I was like, I don't know who the hell that is. So I'm going to do my absolute best with this. There are going to be a lot of time jumps. And that's the way the story is told. A majority of the story is set up between year 1, year 10, year 100, and year 1000. And so a lot of times as I'm going through this, I'm going to tell you what year stuff is happening in, if I know. So away we go.
So does it give an initial frame of reference for anything that we already know, or is this a hard reboot kind of beginning?
That is, yeah.
So here is what I have written down on how to know the differences in the timeline, because we will be using year 0, year 10, year 100, year 1000. Year 0, the clock basically starts from the moment Charles Xavier is sitting at a party and has his first initial glimpse of his dream in his head, the overarching dream of peace between humankind and mutant kind, the glimmer of the X-Men. So that is year 0. Year 10 is present day. So because comics has weird timelines that we've discussed on the show before, it is not 60 some years of history in the X universe. It has been 10 years since Professor X had the dream and this point in history. Year 100 is a possible future storyline in which, well, we'll get into that, but it is a time marker in and of itself. And then year 1000 is another of those possible futures. So the big ones that kind of wrap your head around is year 0 means the moment that Charles Xavier 10 years ago in continuity came up with the dream. Year 10 means now in the comic book continuity.
All right.
Yeah. Got all that? All right.
It took me 2 read-throughs to really be like, oh, that's what they're doing.
Clear as mud.
Yes. A lot of things. And again, I I feel like I need to preemptively apologize because, again, I did my best to sort this out. And I still feel like it's going to sound like I'm just word salading at you. And I apologize for that in advance to both to you and to our listeners, but I'm doing my best
Leia,
with the information I was given.
I have faith in us.
Good.
So.
Because this is the first one I've read that I'm like, I don't really know about this.
There's a line in Mystery Science 3000 of, come on, you guys, we did Monsters of Go-Go, we can do this. So I've got, come on, guys, we did all the Spider-Man stories. We can do this.
All right. Okay. So, all right. So we open up with Professor X. He does not look like how you would imagine him. He's in the body of a different mutant named Phantom X. This is given 0 explanation, by the way.
That's fine.
But we're gonna go with that. We're just gonna take that information and say, all right, and then move on.
Hey, you remember the ending of X3, the horrible X-Men movie?
I think I actually just trauma blocked that right out of my mind.
Was that the one with Diamond Thing?
Diamond Thing.
Oh,
that was the one with Phoenix.
Okay,
that was the Phoenix saga that was horrible.
Oh yeah.
But in that, Professor X dies, and then there's the post-credit spoiler scene of him just waking up in some other dude's body. Yeah, that's okay. That is pretty much what happened.
Okay, right. Very good. But yeah, it's given no context. We just accept this in the series, so it's fine. So he's watching some mutants emerging from little cocoons in this unspecified location. And he says, "To me, my X-Men," and away we go. So 5 months prior to this event, around the world, and also one location on the moon and Mars, mutants have been placing several weird looking flowers. These weird looking flowers kind of explode into a tropical plant life area. It suddenly just becomes they put it in one of them. It shows that it's been put near a building, and the building is just kind of overgrown with jungle looking stuff. So one of these is called the Jerusalem Habitat. It's in Jerusalem. And ambassadors are summoned telepathically by Xavier to announce that there's going to be a sovereign nation of mutants named Krakoa. These ambassadors kind of go in through this little plant life looking thing to meet the ambassador to Krakoa, who is Magneto. which is kind of cool. So Krakoa is a safe haven for mutants. It's only really accessible by mutants. Humans can go in, but only if they're accompanied by a mutant and have permission from the island, because Krakoa is also sentient. So
Krakoa is a mutant.
Yeah, it's a place. Yeah, but also it's a sentient mutant island thing. And Jean Grey is there. She's shown bringing in several younger mutants, and just kind of outlining the basic nature of the island to them. While this is happening, on a ship that is near the sun, it's a space station called the Forge, and it's got a group of humans in it that call themselves Orcus, and they're trying to prevent the extinction of humanity. One of the major thing that the Forge can do is build stuff, and what they are, it's shown that they're building something. It's just like a giant head at this point. And that's all we see. While this is going on, Mystique, Toad, and Sabretooth have broken into the damage control base. They are looking for information. It's not specified exactly what they're looking for, but they get it, and they walk out and are almost immediately apprehended by the Fantastic Four.
What collection of Fantastic Four? The four that we would initially think of? Or
yeah, so it's Reed Richards,
Wait.
Invisible Woman,
Right.
Johnny, and Thing. Yep.
All right.
So cutting back to the Magneto and the ambassadors, he's showing them around some of the Krakoan habitats, which are accessed through these little plant portal gate things. It's also revealed here that mutants now have their own written language in order to create their own mutant culture. I also want to point out too that they're all still speaking English, so I'm not clear on how this works, like anthropologically speaking. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but as an anthropologist, it's very confusing, because I was like, okay, you've got a written language, but you're not speaking a different language. You're just, okay, sure.
And they didn't decide to like italicize anytime they're using their own language or anything.
Yeah, everyone is 100% speaking English.
I mean, that's not a hard, thing to implement. Just here's English, and if it's in italics, obviously it's not English.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I think we're gonna get to this a little further when you find out how this language is both created and administered.
Yeah, there's a lot happening.
All right.
Yes, because there's no Duolingo for this.
No. So the investors are a little concerned about essentially the military implications of the portals. Like, one of them points out that you can like bring entire armies through these portals and have them just popping out wherever, and like, isn't that kind of sketchy, whatever. But good guy Magneto is like, no man, it's a refuge. It's not, we're not going to use this for attacking people. Like, why, how dare you? And they want to go.
There's some sort of history to me doing things like that in the past.
Right.
And I like the clarification that it's good guy Magneto.
Yeah. How dare you imply that Magneto, would do such a thing?
Are you an anti-Semite?
I love Magneto.
I know.
He's my guy. So the ambassadors want to go to the actual island of Krakoa, and Magneto is like, absolutely not, get fucked, you're human, it's not for you. So this is where we learn that mutant culture is what's called a closed culture, which is really interesting. So they've got their own written language, still speak English, but they have it closed off to humans to form their own culture. So there's a lot going on with that, which is, I'd like to do a little thesis on that, but I won't.
Wakanda forever.
Yes. So meanwhile, back at the Fantastic Four fight, they managed to capture Sabretooth, and just as they do, Cyclops hops out of the plant portal to attempt to remand him into essentially mutant custody. Reed Richards disagrees strongly with that, and Cyclops is like, you know what, never mind, you can keep him, that's cool, just let your son know that whenever he wants to come to Krakoa, there's a place for him, and then he dips. So Franklin, Sue and Reed's son, is a mutant. And
thank you for answering that before I could ask it.
Yes.
But cue the dude standing smugly and everybody around him going, oh!
Yeah.
That was just like, hey, so when your son is done sullying himself with you.
Yeah, like it really had some big like tell your wife I said hello energy. Like yeah, it was pretty cool.
It should
so
be
yeah,
pointed
basically-
out that in the subsequent few years before this, Cyclops has generally not been a good dude.
Wait, he was a good dude?
Well, okay, he was a bullshit dude before.
So yeah, so you cut back to Magneto and the ambassadors, and it turns out that none of them it's revealed through telepathy that none of them are actually ambassadors at all. They're just an assorted bunch of either rich capitalists or former Strike, Shield, and or Sword members who were essentially masquerading as ambassadors in order to kind of get a foothold in on this whole Krakoa deal. Magneto, of course, is pissed about this and tells the humans, eat shit, you got new gods now. And they do this in this wonderful panel that's like overlooking the city of Jerusalem, which is just like such a hot fucking take on this. I was loving it. So this is the part where we get into it, and there's a whole issue that's dedicated to the character of Moira McTaggart. And this gives us some backstory or present story or future story on who and what she is. And this is where the storytelling pace really starts to kind of jump around a little bit here.
Before we get into this, Leia, I just want to cover something that I think we kind of glossed over.
Yeah.
In order to have Krakoa identified as a sovereign nation, basically what Xavier says is that normally we would have just given you some of the things that we have, but since you can't be trusted, basically we're going to have to do a tet for tet. So if you identify, or any country that recognizes us as a sovereign nation gets a drug that extends human life by 5 years, another that prevents all diseases of the mind, and a third that is the most effective adaptive antibiotic the world has ever seen. So basically,
Jesus.
This mutant island can grow plants that can create super drugs. So because
it's a living island. Question is, right, does the living island move, or is it actually stationary?
It can, and it has.
Yeah.
It has chosen for the purposes in this story to stay in one place. In the past, Krakoa was actually a villain because it eats mutants, like 2 or 3 a year.
Well, how else is it going to make those healing plants?
Right. And that is how it sustains itself. This will be solved later in the storyline. But yeah, so it is kind of important to know that basically Xavier has changed his dream a little bit to be like, normally if I was the person from 10 years ago, I would have just given this to humanity and hoped that they appreciated the gift that I was giving them. I know better now, so I'm going to give this to you only on the condition that you leave us the fuck alone.
All y'all
that's
humans
huge
can suck
character
my dick.
development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually learned that humanity is.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other thing too that's important to note before we get into this as well, because that actually kind of spurred something I wasn't sure where to fit in, is that this entire series has a lot of it's interspersed with a lot of very cool but very dense like infographics and backgrounds. So like there may be like 6 pages of like regular comic book, action, and then it will kind of cut to a very dense breakdown of some of the concepts and backstory and world behind everything. And it is wonderful, and it is really interesting. But a lot of this, I've had to abridge so much of this because my notes have been so very long. So a lot of this stuff I may explain, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go into the deep depths of every single infographic or blurb that comes across because it is so much. It is so much.
Yeah, for the purposes of this to do the background on it, I sometimes look at, okay, well, how did it, because this is a lot. How did this YouTube channel do it? And the answer is 5 different hour-long segments.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are much more in depth than we're going to get. But really, if this intrigues you, just go and read the comic. It's very good. It is very dense. It'll take you a lot longer than a normal comic, but it is an awesome story.
Yeah. It's definitely very, very cool, but it is a lot to absorb. So, like, for the purposes of time, there will be some things that I just kind of allude to because it's again, it's super, super dense. So
a heavy read as opposed to a light read.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Not
all
one
right.
for the 8-year-old, maybe.
No,
God,
probably
no.
not.
God, no.
I mean, make sure that if he finishes it, you get him a personal pan pizza.
I will personally pay for a extra large party pizza if an 8-year-old can read this and understand it. Just
we'll have him on for an encore episode. It'll be fine.
There we
get in
go.
touch with me. What it's RetConversations@gmail.com.
Yep.
like here's my kid's book report on House of X, Powers of X.
I love it. I'm willing to start the Pizza Hut personal pan pizza comic book RetConversations club.
That was
I want to do that with all of these. So
that was how I fed my family in the late 80s to early 90s, man. Just don't discount it. I had so many of those things.
God, we can't make groceries this week. Leia, go to the library.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I actually had a librarian call my house to check up with my mother to make sure that I was actually reading the books my mother that I took home from the library. And my mother was just like long suffering, like, yes, I really wish she'd go play outside. She has been reading everything. And the librarian never called again, and I got like infinite pan pizzas. Because they were like, she's checking out adult books. Is she really reading those? The answer is yes. So, all right. So we're gonna get into the story of Moira McTaggart.
Take a drink.
Yeah, no kidding. So, year one, Charles Xavier is at like a street fair or carnival type place, where he is sitting on a bench, just kicking it, and has, as Josh explained earlier, the moment of the dream where that kind of pops into his head and is like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, and as he's sitting there thinking about it, Moira McTaggart appears and sits down next to him on a bench and introduces herself. She's kind of like, oh, like, why are you so happy or whatever? And he tells her, I just had this wonderful dream about a better world and my place in it. And she looks at him dead in the eye and is like, well, if it's not a dream, if it's real. And he's like, bitch, what are you talking about? So she invites him to read her mind. And then we jump forward to year 10. And that's in Krakoa. Mystique and Toad arrive in Krakoa with the flash drive that they had stolen from Damage Control, or I don't really know if it's a flash drive, but it's like a piece of data holding machinery. I don't know what they call it. And ends up giving it to Xavier and Magneto. We skip forward again to year 100, where humans and mutants are engaged in a war against one another, and that's all stemming from the creation of Krakoa. So there's a lot going on in this particular section. There is a little team of mutants that are escaping from a group of Sentinels. It is comprised of Cardinal, Rasputin, Silobel, and Percival.
Heard of one of those. Can you give me the 30-second synopsis of them?
So they are future mutants. So the only one of them that I recognized was Rasputin, which is basically these are the only other time that I've seen these mutants is in the Age of Apocalypse storyline, because these were created to be hounds, which were Apocalypse's like pet mutant killing machine things. But a lot of these, you're going to, through the reading the story, you're going to get to know who they are. Mm-hmm. I believe they are wholly new characters since this is 100 years in the future.
Yeah, there. Some of them, not all of them. I think two of them, Rasputin and Silobel, I believe are what's called chimeras. So they're hybrids of other mutant genes that were spliced together from like a breeding program that was engineered by Mr. Sinister, and their objective mainly is to fight, to be able to fight. It's very weird. But yeah, they're future mutants. They're kind of brand new to this as far as I can tell. Even Rasputin, it's not Ilyana Rasputin, it's just Rasputin, even though that character is female. So they're two different characters. So anyways, they're trying to escape, and they plant a little Krakoa seed so they can get through the portal. And before they do, Percival bites it, and Silobel is captured, and the other two get away. Silobel is brought to Nimrod, in a place called the Human Machine Monolith. So in this future, humans and machines are like the same thing, kind of like humans have like a lot of enhancements. They're like half machine, half human.
Right.
So he greets her, apologizes for her entire existence being a terrible idea. And basically just kind of talks shit about her for a little while. It was like, hey, you were a mistake. And then he puts her in a machine that is like a hive mind that absorbs her sentience but kills her.
Yeah, it dissolves her and keeps her sentience.
Yeah. So the other ones that managed to get away are greeted by Wolverine and pals. There's something going on here that's difficult to explain, and it doesn't really get explained fully until much, much later in the series. But basically, Wolverine and Cypher and Zorn, and I'm suddenly blanking on the fourth one. He also has a weird name. I didn't write it down. That was very dumb of me.
That's fine. I probably wouldn't recognize the name anyway. I'm like Nimrod, Cypher, Zorn.
Yeah. So basically, they're the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and have like this apocalypse horseman form.
Like Voltron.
It's like Wolverine
Sure.
looks like Wolverine. Everybody else, I think it's, and I'm not super familiar with the other characters, so I don't know if they had a previous incarnation where they looked different, but they're basically, yeah, like they have, so Wolverine is war. I can't remember what the other ones. Why didn't I write this down? That was really dumb.
Or pestilence, famine, and
yeah, there's war, pestilence, famine, and death. So that's how that goes. So they're greeted, these ones that get away are greeted by him and the other incarnations of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And Wolverine's like, I'm going to take you to the old man.
Right. It's by the way, it's Wolverine, Zorn, Krakoa itself.
That's right. Thank you. That's why I was blanking.
/ Cypher, because they have melded into each other over 100 years, and Magneto.
Okay. I don't know why I blank out on Magneto.
Right.
It's very strange of me. I've had an entire massive cold brew today, and apparently it's not working. So we go forward to year 1000. And Nimrod has a whole library of mutant consciousness that's being used to provide like a tactical advantage in warfare. And it is pointed out to him that the library is now useless because of the quote unquote surprising end of the human machine mutant war. It is not stated what that end is yet. So this is now where we get into the backstory of Moira McTaggart. She's had several names, but for the ease of reference, I'm just going to call her Moira from here on out to cut down on any confusion. Her whole thing is that her mutant power is a form of reincarnation. However, it's not the type of reincarnation that you would immediately think of.
Or want.
Where like, okay, like you die and you are reborn, and you live another life, kind of going forward in the progression of the future, right? So like you die at 78, or whatever, and then you're reborn again, and then you live to 64 or whatever, so like her reincarnations take place in the same timeline. So she's always herself. She's always born at the same time, but she can also alter her, like it's like her existence kind of warps reality around her. It's really difficult to explain verbally how this works.
Remembers everything from her previous lives.
Yeah.
Like Alia from Dune.
Yeah.
She dies and then all of a sudden she's a fetus.
Right. Yeah. She becomes she's even like fully sentient and aware, like in the womb. Like she knows that she is like, hey, I'm just kicking it in the womb, and
can you imagine trying to parent that?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, it's so like on her, so she has a perfectly normal first life, and dies of old age peacefully, and then again, like Josh said, wakes up and is like, I'm in the womb, I'm a fetus. So for her second life, she kind of ends up being she's considered a child prodigy because she retains all these the memories and intellect that she had from her previous life. So in this second life, after she dies of old age the first time around, second life, she studies biology and psychology at Oxford in an attempt to kind of figure out what she is or what the hell is happening. While she was at Oxford, she went to college with Professor X, X. And so she sees him one night on television, essentially coming out as a mutant. So she decides that she's going to hop a plane to America to talk to him about what she is, because she thinks now, okay, I must be a mutant too, because this is really weird. So she hops in this plane to America and it crashes on the way. It is not explained at any point why she didn't consider using the telephone first. So she dies. So that's life number 2.
I'm sure she appears in the womb and goes, "Son of a bitch!"
Right? Exactly. Like of all the fucking ways to go. So in her third life, she takes a turn and then decides to study genetics and anthropology. And I'm going to self-insert here and say it was most likely bioanth, because I can't see. I mean, they are trying to create a culture, so maybe culture and anthropology would be good, but bioanth seems right if you're trying to figure out mutations. She decides during this third life that mutant kind is a curse. So she develops a cure for the mutant gene, but does not get a chance to use it because mutants destroy her lab and capture her. And it's this point where she is told by a mutant named Destiny, who has precognitive abilities, that she has a finite number of reliving. So she doesn't get to do this forever. She is warned that she has 10, maybe 11 lives, and that's all she gets. And if she dies at any point as a child before her mutant powers activate, that's it. She's done. She won't reincarnate again, and her life cycle stops. And Destiny threatens to do it to her if she ever goes against mutant kind again. She's basically like, change your fucking ways, act right, or we'll just fucking kill you next time, next go round. And so Pyro ends up burning her to death as a warning.
God damn it, Pyro.
Yeah, they like specifically are like, do it slow so that she remembers not to fuck around. She fucked around and found out. So life number 4, she does change her ways. And this time she falls in love with Xavier and dedicates herself to aiding mutant kind. And then she's killed by Sentinels. In life number 5, she tries to meet with Xavier again, but this time she does it 10 years prior to when they were supposed to meet, and she's only 13 at this point. She has him read her mind and see her past lives, which kind of radicalizes him, and he ends up organizing like a mutant legion, and once again, she's killed by Sentinels. Life number 6 has no data. We don't know what happened there. Life number 7, Moira decides the best possible course of action is to kill the entire family of the guy who created the Sentinel. So not just him, but like anybody who he's pretty much ever talked to or shares DNA with him. And honestly, who could blame her? She's been murked twice by them at this point. So like, I get it. The problem is that Sentinels are created anyways, because basically that's just kind of the nature of human invention. If it wasn't Bolivar Trask, it was going to be somebody who creates these Sentinels. And of course, guess what happens next?
Worked by Sentinels again. Wakes up, son of a bitch.
Like, I'm getting real tired of this shit.
This would make a fantastic video game, by the way. Like, just, instead of game over, you just get like womb and son of a bitch.
Right. So life number 8 has her allying with Magneto instead of Professor X, who really genuinely did not need to know about the future mutant holocaust to be even further radicalized. Like he really, like, he is not having a good time. And this time for a change, they're defeated by the kind of mixed team of Avengers and X-Men. So not Sentinels this time, just the superheroes. Life number 9, she has her going straight to fucking Apocalypse to join in this like endless war with humankind. It's not specified how she died in this life, but my odds are on a Sentinel.
Boom, son of a bitch.
Right, exactly. And in life number 10, she decides that she and Charles will, quote, break all the rules. And this puts us back at the start of the issue again. So it kind of closes on the way that it opens, which was pretty fun. I like this part. I think that the character is really fascinating. So that's that on Moira. And now we're back to the jumping around in time stuff again. We are back at year 1. In this
or
one,
year 0, depending on
year 1, year 0. I have it written down as year 1, but it could just be that I didn't read that correctly.
Well, and that's fine. I'm just clarifying for people listening. Year 1 and year 0 are used interchangeably because they really mean the same thing. Birth of the dream.
Yeah. So this one sees Xavier and Magneto meeting up in a base called Island M. It's located in the Bermuda Triangle. And Xavier and Magneto are cool again. I mean, as cool as they can be with one another. So Xavier convinces Magneto to take his cool helmet off and let Professor X show him Moira's past lives. And so he does. And Magneto's like, "Holy shit! Why did you show me all this terrible failure?" And Xavier tells him, the reason that he thinks that the only reason that all those failures happened was because he and Magneto weren't allied together. And he and Moira have come up with a ambitious plan for mutants to not only just survive, but actually thrive for a change. So they decide to join forces. So we go back up to year 10 again. And then on Krakoa, Magneto and Xavier are showing Cyclops the plans from the data that Mystique stole. And what it is plans for something called a mother mold. It kind of sounds like it's a sourdough starter, but it's not. What it does?
It might be my sourdough starter now.
It's I read that and I was like, this is I don't really care for this name. Give it any kind of other name, but all right, good. It does not make sourdough. It makes other master molds. And they're all in orbit around the sun. What those things do is they create sentinels. So we're back to the sentinels again. There's a lot of sentinel action in this. So it's been built, but it hasn't been deployed yet by Orcus. And they are afraid that Nimrod will become operational if it's activated. So Cyclops is like, I'm going to go take it out before it can go online. Fast forward again to year 100, and Cardinal, Rasputin, and Wolverine are in an asteroid because that's a cool place to hang out. They have in their possession an indexing machine, and it contains a data repository of machine knowledge locations over to Apocalypse. So basically they're giving this thing, it doesn't have data on it, it just has the locations where data can be found, if that makes sense.
So it's a whole bunch of Wikipedia links?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, like it's basically like it doesn't actually contain the Wikipedia entries, but it tells you where you can find it on Wikipedia. So they've stolen this thing from Nimrod. Cypher, being Cypher, of course, is able to decode it relatively quickly and find the location of the data they're looking for. But Wolverine argues that it would be a suicide mission on account of all the Sentinels that would come after them, if they tried to get into where this data is located. Apocalypse, of course, is like, "Nah, bitch, I'm in charge. We're doing this." And they proceed forward. Fast forward again to year 1000. And in order to prove, this is the part I had the most difficulty with, and I will continue to have a lot of
year 1000 stuff. Yeah.
Year 1000. In order to prove their civilization's value in the universe, Nimrod and a character called the Librarian have created a world mind. A world mind is a celestial object that has been converted into a singular intelligence. It's found and then eaten by the Phalanx, which is a hive mind type of AI race. This is where I have to be completely honest and say that I struggled to understand what the hell is going on in year 1000.
So Phalanx, if you want me to jump in and help,
please.
Yeah, I feel like I felt this is the part where I felt like I needed a PhD in like mutanomics or something to like grasp the story.
You need Jay and Miles, which is another podcast. There's another podcast called Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, and they are the people that know everything about the X-Men period. So there are a lot of different elements of the X-Men past kind of hodgepodge together into this. The Phalanx is strictly like, it's kind of like a non-organic Borg. They are a completely AI race that goes and tries to find worthy races or civilizations to join them. And the big thing is that they do not consider biological beings. So what Nimrod, who is mostly almost I think he's all machine because he's like a super sentinel. And the Librarian, what they have done is they have put an artificial intelligence that is the repository of everything the society has into a biological being in an attempt to trick the Phalanx into accepting a biological being for the first time. So yeah, that is what they are doing here. And this is what will eventually outcome of humanity, mutant kind, society, everything that is Earth will eventually, this is the moment in which it's just absorbed into another culture entirely.
Yeah, it's super, super weird.
Yeah, it's again very dense, and most of it is explained in those little like blurbs after the chapter, because it talks about types of societies. And it starts with planetary. So there's like your first type of society is just a single machine. Then you go to hive. Then you go to massive intelligence, and then you jump to societies that are galactic. So Technarch, World Mind, Phalanx. Yeah, and the Phalanx is basically like a collection of interstellar societies in a scale where all of them are a world mind, but they span like multiple galaxies.
So
wrap your head around that concept.
Got that?
Cue the gif of person looking confused with numbers and angles and stuff swirling around their head.
Jonathan fucking Hickman, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Like for the record, this was about the part where I turned into a sentient version of like mathlady.gif.
There you go.
Because wow, okay. Sure.
There are some concepts in this book.
Yeah. This is, and I consider myself a reasonably intelligent person, and I was really, really, really having a hard time with that. So I would not fault anybody else for not understanding what the fuck was about either, because it's a lot.
Yeah. Long story short, too late. If Nimrod is allowed to come online, this is the end. This is the end result every time. Is eventually human society, mutant society, everything that has existed on Earth will be essentially erased into the Phalanx hive mind. Which, could be a good result. They probably won't consider that a good result, but
it's so much. So that happens. And we go back to year 100 again. This time we are at a place called the Temple of Concordance of the Church of Ascendancy. This religious order preaches basically that all humans are slaves. The ones remaining should reject their humanity and become human machine hybrid things and worship machines. All right. So the X-Men show up and attack this church. Nimrod is told about it by Omega Sentinel, but he doesn't give a fuck. He's busy. So she goes and fucks off to go investigate why the X-Men are attacking this church with a bunch of Sentinels in tow. As this is happening, Wolverine, Apocalypse, and Cypher are trying to get info to find out exactly when Nimrod came online. But he's onto them and shows up to confront them. Back at the Omega Sentinel fight, it almost looks like she and the Sentinels are going to win, but then Rasputin lifts Zorn's mask, opening up a fucking black hole that annihilates everyone. So
that is, by the way, That is, by the way, Zorn's mutant ability. He wears a mask that, if you are familiar with AEW, there are people that wear masks that look a lot like Zorn. But he was born with his mutant ability being his head is a black hole singularity. So he wears a mask to basically protect everyone around them. This has been a thing. Welcome to comics.
Yeah, this was wild. That particular panel happened, and I was like, all right.
For more on Zorn, see when he was Zorn, then Magneto, then not really Magneto, really Zorn, and then Zorn's brother, and then Zorn again.
Wait, what?
Right.
90s. Woohoo! This all culminated, by the way, in Magneto just being like, I don't like Jean Grey, and giving her an embolism. Once again, Magneto.
There's iron in your blood. It's fine.
Bless.
No, he just like literally looked at Jean Grey and was like, I don't like you. And she just like was like, and fell over.
Jesus Christ. Oh, boy. So yeah, I mean, so a fucking black hole opens up and just annihilates everybody. Meanwhile, back at the Nimrod Ranch, Cypher opens up a portal to Krakoa. Everybody flees except for Apocalypse, who stays back to fight. Back on the asteroid, Wolverine wakes up Moira by essentially force feeding her mind with an information crystal containing the data that she'll need for her next life. Then they kill her to send her on her way.
Specifically, Wolverine murders her.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Wolverine is like, bye, bitch. And it turns out that so year 100 was Moira's 9th life. Is what's revealed there. So now she has
that when Wolverine is about to kill her, she says, "It's okay, it's fine. I have what I need now, and this is what you do."
Yeah, it's just this whole story, man. I tell you,
there are moments. Yeah.
So back on Krakoa, Cyclops has assembled a team of mutants to go attack the forge that's run by Orcus and destroy the mother mold before it comes online.
Back in year 10.
Yeah, back in year 10. They specifically do not take any Krakoan plants with them, saying that they have to basically get in and get out the old-fashioned way. And they're doing that in order to prevent the mother mold from having access to the plant portal things. They don't want it essentially to know or to have these plants available to it, because they are afraid that it will take that data and use it to fuck over them, which makes sense. They also mentioned too that they don't want to kill the humans that are on board. They just want to yeet this mother mold into the sun, which seems kind of foolish, honestly, because there's nothing stopping them from making another one. So, in the end, Magneto was right. So at this point now we cut to Project Achilles, which is a superhuman supermax prison. Inside the prison, Sabretooth, who, as you'll recall, was captured, is on trial. He's on trial for about 2 minutes before Emma Frost shows up with a pardon for him on account of how all the Krakoan people have diplomatic immunity from this emerging nation. I personally do not think this is how international law works, like, at all, but all right.
Do I know immunity for every single mutant was built into the deal of recognizing them as a sovereign state?
Yes.
So if you have the X gene, you have diplomatic immunity, and you are basically beholden only to the laws of Krakoa.
Yeah.
Well then.
Yeah.
Should I know who Emma Frost is?
Oh, yes, you should. Oh. Sit down, have yourself a drink. Emma Frost.
Okay.
Emma Frost was the White Queen of the Hellfire Club originally. She is my favorite. I love her. To give you the TLDR of Emma Frost, she was part of the Hellfire Club with Sebastian Shaw, which is a big X-Men villain in like 70s. If you watch First Class, she was represented, but not very well. Her powers are awesome telepathy, and she can turn herself into diamond. She also ran a school that was in opposition to Xavier's school, basically like the Brotherhood school. In subsequent years, she kind of came over to the X-Men, but she is generally the voice of just fucking kill this person on the X-Men team, because she still pretty much still has those villain traits, but in a more controlled way. When Jean Grey died, before Jean Grey died, one of the times she was dating Scott Summers, basically cheating on Jean by having mind sex with Scott, and then it was discovered, then Jean died, then they were together, then they broke up, and then Jean came back. That's the TLDR. She is awesome. I would highly recommend reading her. There is an Emma Frost graphic novel that kind of is her past, that they retconned a bunch of stuff, but it is so good. She is such a fun character. She is very much an anti-hero in the way I love anti-heroes, because she's like, I will not kill you. I will lobotomize you. Step aside.
Right.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. So yeah, she ends up walking off with Sabretooth. They dip out. And then so meanwhile we cut back to being atop the Orcus Forge again, and there's a deeply philosophical conversation between the chief scientist there and Omega Sentinel about how the mother mold eventually will probably start creating sentinels that end up just killing humans in order to prevent any mutants being born. But it's pointed out that they've got control collars on this thing, so it's like fine, and sure.
Can never override their programming.
Right, exactly. I was like, these people have learned literally nothing, but okay. Humanity is a mistake.
Omega Sentinel literally should have just handed a DVD of The Terminator and been like, yeah, watch that and then come back to me.
Right, like Ultron didn't take place that long ago, guys. Pay attention.
Right.
So the X-Men arrive, and Nightcrawler does his little boomf thing in to do some recon, and immediately runs into Omega Sentinel and the chief scientist. And she quickly figures out that they're going to attack the control collars to send this mother mold flying into the sun. So it's connected at 4 points by these little control collar things, and this mother mold is not fully I don't know what the word here that I'm looking for is. It's not fully developed yet.
Right. They have not yet put in the controls that will guarantee that it will not turn on humanity.
Yeah, it's basically they're uploading tons and tons and tons of data into it to get it to become, a sentient AI. But it's basically, it's not stable, and it's not fully uploaded yet. Like, it's in the process. It's basically like you pretend it's 2002 and you're trying to download a song from LimeWire. Like it's like 17 years 37 seconds.
If we don't let it upload, it'll have a different brain. Abby someone.
Exactly.
Because why would we install the safeguards before the rest of the operating system?
Yeah, no, really need to point out that humanity was a mistake. So the X-Men are attempt to board, but the chief of security, whose name is Erasmus, sets off a bomb that kills himself and destroys most of the X-Men's ship. So he kind of suicide bombs out of there.
The thing he was supposed to be protecting.
Yeah, it sure does. Back on Krakoa, Xavier is mind melding with the Stepford Cuckoos in order to speak with Jean Grey, who lets him know that Archangel and Husk have died in this explosion, and Nightcrawler and Wolverine are injured. Jean Grey and Monet stay in place on the ship in order to keep a telepathic link to Krakoa, while Nightcrawler, Mystique, Cyclops, and Wolverine decide to press on with the mission. Nightcrawler starts teleporting them to various locations around the forge in order for them to destroy these control collar things. They manage to pop off 2 before the X-Men ship is boarded, and Jean is sent off in an escape pod, and Monet stays behind to fight the humans as a distraction. Cyclops manages to destroy the 3rd control collar, but Mystique, poor Mystique, is fucking sucked out into space before she can pop the collar. Like she is caught, and they just open up an airlock and they're like, bye bitch, and that's it for Mystique.
Yep.
It was so abrupt, it actually shocked me. So the humans decide to activate the mother mold and bring it online, despite not knowing whether or not it's essentially uploaded enough information to be fully sane.
But humans are dumb, so that's okay.
This is super bad. This is so bad. This is a really poor decision. Xavier tells the remaining mutants that they have to do whatever it takes to stop it. Like, this is it. Do whatever they're fucking.
Everyone. Yeah, basically.
So Nightcrawler booms himself and Wolverine onto the final collar, onto the 4th collar, and it's basically a suicide mission. Nightcrawler is immediately vaporized by the sun. But Wolverine, because he has regeneration powers, manages to kind of keep himself together long enough to free the mother mold from the 4th collar before he too is vaporized by the sun. So he's gone.
For now, until his particles are
rejected
from the sun.
Until his single cell. Yeah.
And then it's his turn to say, son of a bitch.
Right? Yeah. So Cyclops, meanwhile, is trying to find Jean's escape pod, but holy shit, he is also killed. This time it's by the scientist, who was like, you guys killed my husband, because I guess her husband was the guy, the Erasmus guy who suicide bombed himself.
We didn't what? We didn't.
Yeah. Jean's pod, meanwhile, her escape pod is located by some Sentinels, and she also bites it as well. Professor X at this point is just kind of watching all this happen and is super sad, and vows no more. Not no more mutants, which is an important side note here.
Yes, very, very different.
It does kind of have a little bit of that flavor.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah.
At this point. It's even the because I did the House of M as our inaugural episode, and it does kind of have a lot of like allusions to that in these panels, these, like 2 or 3 pages actually, where it kind of talks about it, and Kenosha and whatnot. And so I thought that was interesting. But he does not say no more mutants. Very important.
By the way, apologies to people in Wisconsin. She means Genosha, not Kenosha.
Yeah. Midwestern.
I mean, yeah, people actually cared about Kenosha.
Hey, you know what's in Kenosha?
I don't know.
Boots?
It's the
Nice
O&H Danish Kringle. That's where it comes from. That's where it's made. We need to respect Kenosha, if for nothing else than my beloved Kringle, the pastry of my homeland.
I take back everything I said. Please continue.
My love for
here I was just on Geonosis from Star Wars. So
that's very different. But yeah,
very different.
So we get back into some more time jumping around now. This part is a delight. I can't.
Mr. fucking Sinister.
Yeah. So we're back at year 0 at Bar Sinister, which is the place where Mr. Sinister hangs out, I guess. And Xavier and Magneto have an audience with him. I really want to point out here that I love this character. The first thing he does, he cloned himself. So it's
into like his own society.
Yeah, it's just
speaking of Geonosis, Jesus.
Yes, everyone is Mr. Sinister.
It's so great. So the first thing he does is compliment Magneto's cape, demand one of his own, and executes his butler, who is also his clone, for not bringing him a cape sooner. Fucking total queer icon. I love him. Style goals, life goals, everything.
The fact that
Perfect.
David Bowie could not play Mr. Sinister before his untimely death is a tragedy.
Yeah. Like he just, oh my God, this character is so good.
Who would you cast him now?
That's a great question.
I'm trying to think of anybody that has like not just the queer. You know what? No, fuck it, RuPaul.
I could see that.
RuPaul would have the gravitas. Would have the yes.
I also I'm trying to think of
in Pose. Oh, I'm trying to remember the actress's name now. She
actress
would also be awesome.
The actress, which actress?
The one that plays the basically Wicked Mother in Pose.
Oh, I've never seen it. I don't know.
Oh, you should. It's hold on. I'm now looking it up. It's gonna bother me.
I also would accept Ruby, not Ruby. That's the character he played. I also would have accepted Chris Tucker in Ruby Rod mode to play Mr. Sinister.
Oh yeah,
I could absolutely buy that.
And if we're gonna stay on Pose, by the way, Billy Porter.
Oh okay, yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Solid. Okay, perfect. We've casted him. I will write the MCU.
Billy Porter as Mr. Sinister.
Dear Kevin Feige.
We've cast this movie for you. Make it.
As you'll recall, back in 2016, I demanded that Sam and Bucky get their own show. Now
true.
would like you more for me.
Now they're getting their own show and probably their own movie.
Yeah. So I mean, now we've established that the MCU does exactly what I want all the time.
I would bring up example Age of Ultron.
That was before I came into my powers. My mutant powers didn't activate until 2016.
Okay, cool.
So 2016 was when I really started making those calls. I also demanded that there be a Hawkeye show that's based on the Fraction run, and look what's happening. So
true.
I have tremendous power.
No, I no longer doubt your powers. Again, I retract my previous statements. Billy Porter as Mr. Sinister. Wait for the announcement because yes.
You heard it here first on RetConversations.
When it happens. We are giving 1,000 personal pan pizzas to children. And Billy Porter is Mr. Sinister. You were here first.
Yes, I'm here for this. I totally lost my place here. I'm just really excited about Mr. Sinister.
It's Mr. Sinister.
All right. The point about Mr. Sinister is that I love him, and he's a queer icon. So yeah, he beheads his butler / clone for not bringing him a cape. A cape
specifically as fabulous as Magneto.
Yes. So Professor X and Magneto tell him that they want him to help them build a database of mutant DNA, because he's done it with humans, but they want him to kind of shift a little bit and build a database of mutant DNA. And initially he's like, absolutely not. And as he's refusing, another Mr. Sinister beheads him.
Shoots him in the head.
That's right. He shoots him in the head. And it's like, hey fellas, I'm the one with the mutant gene. My mutant power is overthrowing tyrants and being absolutely fabulous. So I mean, like, just give him his own show.
I have to take a second and just read this panel because okay, so the Sinister that he murdered was sitting in the throne in the middle of the room. The Sinister is like, I didn't like the results. I won't tolerate such. And then there's just a blam. And then the other Sinister moves that dude's body, sits in the throne and goes, oh, but I will. And says, it's me, the Sinister with the mutant gene. And if you must know, my mutant power is overthrowing tyrants and being absolutely fabulous. And Magneto just responds with, I can see that. And then the new Sinister goes, so we're in this together. I love the ambition. I love every bit of it. So tell me, partners, what's next for our sinful secret confederacy? That is Mr. Sinister, and I love him.
It's so good. It's so good. So sadly that scene ends. I would have paid good money to have it go on forever.
Oh yeah, if it could just be an entire comic of just bar Sinister stuff with Mr. Sinister.
Would have been happy with it.
Chef's kiss.
And who would write that?
Me.
Awesome. Sold.
Coming soon to the RetConversation site.
Just 2 hours of Leia's Mr. Sinister fanfic. So at this point now we skip ahead to year 10 where Xavier and Cypher are on Krakoa, and Xavier shows him that it's a sentient island that he's able to telepathically communicate with.
To be specific, it's a few months before year 10.
Yeah.
It's not right now, but it's a few months ago.
Yeah. There's so many many weird.
I know. I just want to make sure that people don't get super confused.
Thank you.
More confused?
Yeah, more confused.
Right.
Because it does that a lot too. It'll be like year 10, 5 months prior or whatever, and it's like, okay, just pick a timeline and stick with it.
I'm seriously straining this Boda box.
Year 9.5. What?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, it will do that, and it's just like
it is pretty much 9.5. This scene is 9.5. Yeah.
So, Cypher learns some of the island's language and history, and there's
speaks English.
It still speaks English. There's quite a bit of it. So I'm not going to go into detail here.
This part is also important. Scott, do you know who Cypher is?
No, I was hoping that would be explained in the story.
No.
All right. Okay. Who's Cypher?
So he is a former New Mutant, actually, from the original run. His name is Douglas Rain.
I'm guessing it's not Cypher from the Matrix.
No. His mutant ability is to understand all language. And language is extremely broad here. So language could be computer language. Language could be spoken. Language can be written. He just has the ability to intrinsically understand language. He's actually one of my favorites. In that he's super underutilized because for some reason X-Men teams always take him into combat.
That's another really good utility mutant power.
Yes.
Right.
Like
sure is.
Like so, my favorite has always been the Jamie Madrox multiple man style. Like anybody asks, that's what it is. It's like let me spit out a bunch of copies of myself to do shit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and the thing with Jamie Madrox that's awesome, like getting obviously away from this story, but is that once he reabsorbs, he absorbs the knowledge of that clone.
Right. I could work and play video games and run errands and take a nap all at the same time and then reabsorb.
And then once I reunify, all of that is experiences that I
exactly
have. Now, my other favorite part of Jamie Madrox is he has a lot of clones that are like, fuck you, I don't want to go back to Unify. So there are examples of Jamie Madrox's clones just running the fuck away. But anyway,
I hate clones.
All right.
we'll for future episodes.
So
I will also let you all know that we are now joined by my co-host and wife, Jennifer Holland, is here auditing this show.
Hi, Jen. Hello.
But she has no idea what has happened up to this point.
Well, she's not gonna. This isn't gonna be helpful to her at all.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history of Krakoa, and I'm not gonna get like super into it because it is, again, this is another part where it gets super dense. But basically Krakoa used to be one whole island, and it was split into two islands that it was attacked, it split in half, and the enemy that tried to destroy it was also trying to destroy the entire world, and was stopped by Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen. There's
back in the super beginning times.
Yeah, like thousands of years ago or whatever this happened.
Year negative 5,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
like 50,000.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
You know, if this is one of the cases where it's like, if you'd like to learn more about this, please just go read the book.
Yeah.
And
try to decipher what it was saying.
Yeah, because this was a whole pain in the ass. So Cypher is basically, he builds like an interface that allows other mutants to talk to the island, and so that's what he does there. And back to year 1000, or forward to year 1000, there's a character called the Librarian. This is another part where we start talking about the Phalanx again, and okay, so the Librarian offers himself to the Phalanx in hopes of ascension, and offers an orb. The Phalanx assimilates it, and it transforms into a large sphere, which confuses the piss out of everybody. And they explain that the Phalanx only absorb machine intelligence that they find useful, and that the Librarian essentially created like an empty shell, and copied himself over into it in the hopes of ascension. And they're waiting, and they wait for the Phalanx to decide if this form is acceptable.
Right.
Okay.
Basically, will it reject? Okay, so I had it wrong before. It wasn't an AI that's in a biological form. Biological memories in an AI shell. So they basically tricked the Phalanx. So they're waiting to see if I can take human experience, human minds, not even human at this point, like whatever the half
sentience,
machine,
basically.
Yeah, sentient species into the Phalanx. Will it translate? So will the Phalanx accept it as an artificial intelligence? Yeah, it, again, very, very dense, very Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah,
but at this point, they're waiting. Yeah, it's processing.
Yeah. This whole part with the Phalanx honestly kind of felt like a weird, like it just delved into this very deeply philosophical thought experiment. So it was really difficult for me to parse as a reader.
Well, at least you didn't have to deal with Raceland trying to kill gods. So. Oh, God damn it, Dragonlance. Okay.
So it just keeps getting wilder. Meanwhile, on Krakoa, Professor X has assembled 5 mutants who can basically, and I'm really abridging this here, they can basically make eggs that can revive dead mutants. So they all 5 of them have different powers that they are essentially using in like an assembly line type situation, to basically resurrect these mutants. So it's these mutants in particular are Hope Summers, Eva Bell, Proteus, Elixir, and Egg. Egg is the one that lays the eggs, just in case that wasn't clear.
Well, they now call him Egg. He used to be called Gold Balls. I'm not kidding. This is actually his name. His name was Gold Balls.
Should I know who any of these people are ahead of time?
I mean,
okay, I can accept that.
Yeah.
Hope Summers has a very convoluted story that comes all the way from House of M to she was the first mutant that was born post House of M. And then there was a whole deal about how people were trying to kill her. Hope Summers has got a long.
Yeah, she was the only one whose name I really recognized.
Well, Gold Balls. You'll never forget that name.
Never forget that. Never forget that.
Proteus is the son of Xavier, that Moira McTaggart raised. No, I'm sorry, that's Legion. Proteus is, I think he's another son. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Each of them have a different power. So Gold Balls makes these gold balls that they then discover are unfertilized eggs somehow.
Yes.
So Proteus, who can warp reality, warps reality to make the eggs viable. Then they take Sinister's DNA library that they worked on and inject the eggs with the DNA. And then Elixir, who's like a healing mutant, kickstarts this process of cellular regeneration. So now the eggs are actually like splitting cells. And then Eva Bell is a time mutant, so she accelerates time. So all the cells split, and they basically have a fully grown mutant that comes out of the egg. And then Hope is kind of the unifier, but she also and then Professor X throws their memories that he has somehow backed up onto hard drives into their mind.
Yeah. So he basically is using Cerebro, like a modified copy of Cerebro, to do this. So it turns out then it's shown that this is literally where we open up in the beginning of the series with Professor X, kind of hovering above all these mutants that are emerging out of, now we know are not cocoons but eggs. He says, to me, my mutants, and everybody's alive again. Hooray! Everybody who had died, they're back, and Storm declares them the heroes of Krakoa.
Are we going to go through the creepy part?
Which part?
Her announcing them to the island one by one.
Oh yeah. I didn't include that in my notes, but yeah, she does introduce everybody one by one.
They are naked in front of the entire island.
Yeah.
Just come out of eggs. And she basically says, this is this person. Do you see them? And everyone just goes, we see them, but do we know them? And then she's like, what is your name? And like each one of them are like, I'm Cyclops, Scott Summers. And how do I know it's you? And each of them have to say something that only she knows. And then she says, this is my brother or sister, whatever. I know them. But he is not just Cyclops. He's more than that. What is he? And everyone is throwing their fists up and yelling, mutant!
Yeah, it's like a weird rally. It's
super weird.
Yeah.
And she does that, in fact, for each one.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good way to chew up some page count.
Well, yes, but also basically make it that mutants are cultists.
Yeah.
Apparently.
It's just, it's weird. Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that point was in there because, man, it struck me.
Yeah. It was a lot. So meanwhile, at the UN, Emma Frost and Professor X are having a telepathic conversation about the UN recognizing Krakoa as a sovereign nation. Back on Krakoa, in a surprising twist.
Before we jump back to Krakoa, again, Emma Frost, super powerful psychic. You also find out that she changed one of the votes.
Yes, yeah, the Russian.
This person was gonna vote against us, and all it took was just a little suggestion and they went the other way, so we're good. And Xavier's like, awesome, well, thank you.
He's like, dope, cool. Tight. So back on Krakoa in a slightly surprising twist, all mutants have been invited, including the villains. So they've been all the myriad of mutant villains have been invited to reside now in Krakoa. And they take the deal. And everyone is cool. They're like, cool, neat. And
FYI, Apocalypse can talk to the island.
Yes.
He's the only one other than Cypher that can just naturally understand what the island is saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's implied that it's that way because he's like so old.
And he saved Krakoa.
Yes. So the villains are now like, cool, we'll come in, we'll live here. Neat. So skip back to year one. And so we learn that Xavier has met with a mutant called Forge, and commissions from him a modified Cerebro that will store the minds of other mutants. So now we know how he was getting that good mutant energy to put inside the resurrected mutants.
They're backed up once a week.
Yeah.
Well, then.
Just backed up.
So
Is that with or without their knowledge and or permission?
Without either one of those things.
yeah.
Thanks, Charles Xavier, for knowing what consent is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of really unethical stuff going on.
Oh, really? Around Charles Xavier?
Surprising nobody at all.
You're right. God, Professor X is a dick.
So,
and he's the quote unquote good guy.
Right. So we skip forward to year 10, and Xavier and Magneto are meeting with Emma Frost again. This time they're at the Louvre, and they are trying to convince Emma to help them use the Hellfire Corporation, which she runs, to distribute those super drugs that are made by the plant life in Krakoa. They basically want to use her. The Hellfire Corporation is like
a distribution point.
Yeah,
they can't get the drugs distributed basically like from scratch. It's, as somebody that works in supply chain, I very much understood this whole.
Okay, very good. Yeah, because I was like, all right, sure, sounds great.
To establish a brand new supply chain is like decades long. So pretty much you need a corporation that already has that supply chain network, because you have to deal with logistics, you have to deal with, permits, you have to deal with like all these different things. And you're also talking about worldwide. So the smartest thing is to ally with a corporation that already has all those things, and Emma Frost has all those things.
That makes a lot more sense now that you have explained it in that way. I appreciate that.
No problem. This is literally what I do for my job.
So at first she's hesitant to do this because she was like, look at what happened with Genosha, and they were like, all right, well, why don't you come and check this place out? So they show Krakoa to her, and then she's like, yeah, you know what, all right, okay, we'll give it a go. Shortly thereafter, Xavier sends a telepathic message to all mutants inviting them to Krakoa, and the only person to turn it down is Namor, who's like, I don't believe that you really think that mutants are superior. Come back when you're serious.
Right. Because he's like, because I will conquer the world. I'll take all of it. But
like once again,
you're gonna be on the other side of the fence where you're not willing to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, like once again, Namor, like, so Xavier sends out this telepathic message, and Namor's like, he's like, the message is basically like, mutants are superior, blah 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 blah, and Namor's basically like, how are you gonna say shit to me that I already know?
Namor. Are you familiar with Namor, Scott?
No, I was waiting for a break.
Okay. Namor is known as the First Mutant, although that's weird because it's obvious that Apocalypse was the First Mutant. Yeah. Anyway, Namor is basically Marvel's equivalent of Aquaman. He lives in Atlantis and rules Atlantis and does the whole thing, and he is on any given day a hero or a villain. Depending on if you're in Atlantis's way. Like, he is, yeah. But he is a mutant, canonically. And think about all of, like, the anti-hero stuff that a ruler of Atlantis would look at. So, like, you're polluting my oceans, go fuck yourself, I'll kill you.
Right.
Yeah. On multiple occasions, he's had, like, beef with Wakanda. He also has, like, a boner for Sue Storm.
But, at the same time, he's also very, very practical. See our episode on World War Hulk, where the rest of everyone in the MCU has the world's worst idea, and he goes, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, like, Namor's all right.
Well, he's all right sometimes, is what I'm hearing.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Well, okay.
On occasion.
From his perspective, much like Magneto, from his perspective, he's very right all the time.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can't really be too mad.
His motivations are well documented.
Yes.
Correct.
So Namor's the only person to turn down this invitation. Is like, yeah, good luck with your little happy fun place. Fast forward to year 1000 again. And so the Phalanx has been processing this offer given to them by the librarian. And so it decides to accept it and destroy his group's leader. And
destroy the librarian's body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I accept your consciousness, but we can't have your biological self just hanging around. So vaporize.
And so Nimrod basically speculates that the Phalanx are part of a big black hole information intelligence network, and that's how they operate, is they consume their physical form, and because this has been accepted, they're going to do it to Earth.
Right. All living things will be eaten.
Yeah. So this is bad. Nobody likes this.
I mean, it's bad for us. I mean.
This
is just the animal kingdom on a global or on a galactic, scale.
Right, and it's either that or black hole face guy.
Yeah,
black hole face guy, very gone. Yeah.
Either way, it all ends in black holes, is what I'm understanding here.
At least and then Oh wait, eggs.
Jesus.
We have a problem with clones on this show.
No. So that's that on that with the Phalanx. And then we go back so to like 1 month prior to the events of the series. And this is where it's kind of hammered out that Professor X uses Cerebro to send out a telepathic message to everybody on Earth. Human, mutant, whatever. And he uses this telepathic message to offer up the aforementioned miracle drugs to all of humanity, for the exchange for those 3 conditions that we mentioned earlier: their inclusion in the UN, amnesty for all mutant criminals, and Krakoan citizenship for all mutants. And there's they basically, in the Krakoan government, essentially, it's called the Quiet Council, and it's got 13 people on it. The Quiet Council, basically, they're like a house of government where they design the laws of Krakoa. And so they come up
real quick.
Yeah.
In Xavier's psychic message, there are just a couple of really important points. One, as I said before, is that he would have offered all of this willingly 10 years ago. He actually says that to every citizen on Earth, and he says, we wanted to save you, and we did many times, and then you killed 16 million of our people, and that was the genocide on Genosha.
Yeah.
So he says, there will be no gift. You have not earned it. And then he basically ends with saying, mutants are the evolutionary inevitability. We are Earth's true inheritors. Professor X says that. That's not Magneto. And I just feel that that's a pretty important point. It just really feels like, okay, well, fuck it. This is where we're at.
We tried.
Yeah. And basically he says, here's the new truth. While you slept, the Earth changed.
Yeah. It's okay.
So now we go to the council.
So the council meets up to design, to kind of hammer out what the laws of this nation is going to be. And so the first 3 laws of the nation are that mutants must make other mutants. Mutants shall not murder humans. And the land of Krakoa must be respected.
Man, this sounds familiar to werewolf players.
Yeah.
So the council also puts Sabretooth on trial because he's been remanded to their custody and their justice. So he is found guilty of violating law number 2, and he is sentenced to exile, like in Krakoa, like under the earth.
Right.
And it just kind of swallows him up.
In Krakoa's tummy, because Krakoa is a sentient island.
Except it's not digesting him; it's just keeping him there conscious.
Yeah.
Forever. They specifically say there maybe in a few hundred years we might come up and talk to you.
I mean, that does prevent him from getting into more trouble, which seems to be the thing he is best at.
Yeah. So yeah, so he's just kicking it like in like underneath the earth of Krakoa. And so after all that, and then the council adjourns and whatnot. There's a celebration of the birth of this new nation. And
with a Dazzler concert.
Yes. and
that
Xavier
sounds like a cameo.
It pretty much was.
Yeah, it kind of is. And Xavier and Magneto are, just patting themselves on the back, like, all right, yeah, we did it, woo. And so the wrap up here is that when we get to the very last issue in this series, it starts. The first several pages are exactly identical to the issue that introduces Moira McTaggart. Like, it starts off with her encountering Xavier at the street fair or carnival or whatever. And they go through the whole, I've just had this wonderful dream. It's not a dream if it's real, blah, 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 blah. And he reads her mind, and then we jump right to year 1000. And in year 1000, the librarian is there, and he is in a place called the Preserve, which is like a zoo, kind of, or like a wildlife sanctuary, except it holds mutants.
Mm-hmm.
And
animals, mutants,
it holds basically everything from Earth, like, all together. And while he is taking his leisurely stroll through the Preserve, he encounters Wolverine and has a little chit chat with him about post-humanism. And it's a very deep philosophical conversation that I'm just trying to abridge here at my best.
The long and short is the Phalanx are going to destroy all living matter tomorrow is essentially what's going on.
Yeah. And so he lets him know that he's arranging for him and Moira, who is still alive, to basically be taken off of the planet before the ascension happens. And we find out that the librarian is basically a post-human, basically kind of a species that has evolved out of genetic engineering and tech in an attempt to become equivalent to or outnumber or overcome mutant kind. So it's basically a new species of human. And basically if Moira dies when the Phalanx consume the Earth, she can use her powers to stop them. But if she's left behind, her consciousness, the Dominion can use her consciousness spread throughout all of space and time to stop her instead.
Right.
It's very complicated.
Yeah, basically the Phalanx, if it gets a hold of her mutant ability, can go back to the beginning of her life as the Phalanx. So back to year zero, before year zero, back to when Moira was born, and be the Phalanx. So can destroy humanity from that point on, so that humanity wouldn't know what was going on, but still retain all of humanity's stuff that they got from the Prime Sentinel or whoever it was that they took everything from. Very complicated.
Very, very complicated. I struggled with this part a little bit too, because all the year 1000 stuff is like...
Right. But this is also where you find out that this is Moira's sixth life.
Yep.
So somehow she was plucked out and kept in this reserve all that time.
Yeah. It's not really clearly explained how this occurs, but hey, comic books. So
and that kind of fucks with how she knows what she knows and doesn't know what she doesn't know, and how she doesn't know about the sixth life on her own to be able to...
It sure does.
It sure fucking does.
And I think I think that, and my personal theory on this is that it is because she has, because this is the longest lived life that she has. It takes her literally because it's year 1000, so it takes her, I assume, 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years to die. So maybe that's why, because it's the oldest life.
Once again, a personal pan pizza to children. that we didn't understand this.
Yes. Because this was the part that I really was just sitting there again, like mathlady.gif, trying to figure out how this is all panning out.
Yeah.
But okay.
So to the long and short, though.
Yeah. So yeah, it's her sixth life. And then we cut over back to year one again.
Okay, hold on. Wolverine does murder her again.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that part. Yes, it's Wolverine kills both the librarian and her,
Right.
so that she can go back and stop what will eventually be the post-humans.
Right. Although this time he says, "Don't worry, darling, this is what I do," instead of her saying, "Do what you do."
Yeah.
How the hell was Wolverine contained for that long?
I don't know. I don't know. Comics.
But
so
given enough time, apparently, according to Old Man Logan, the Hulk will just become an incestuous rape machine. So,
Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyways, we're not going to discuss that any further.
No, not until
this
somebody
episode.
asks us to explain it.
So
that's a different episode.
Back at year one, Xavier has now seen all of Moira's previously lived lives,
including life 6.
This is life 10 that we're dealing with now. So yes, now we're all caught up on all the lives.
Yeah.
He actually screams because it's a lot.
So this is kind of where it's revealed that mutant kind always loses. She lets him know that, the one thing that's always been consistent is that, Professor X is a good person. Ish. And that she had to tell him about this in order to ensure mutant survival. And I get they love each other, I guess.
Because I've loved you and I've hated you.
Yeah.
I mean,
it kind of ends on a sweet note. Where she's like, we got to be together, and it's time for you to wake up now. And that's that on that. And then we go forward from year 1 to year 0 to year 10. And Xavier and Magneto are meeting with Moira at a place that's called Moira's No Place.
So this is part of like a very subtle bit of the writing. It is basically a cancerous tumor within Krakoa that Krakoa doesn't even know about. And that's where Moira stays now.
Yeah.
Because she is on her 10th life, and it is assumed that she should no longer manipulate things unless they need to kill her again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is assuming that the announcement that she has 10 lives is actually truthful, or as opposed to just
they said
maybe 11 is what
they said. Maybe 11. So there is perhaps one, but it is not guaranteed.
Right. But
if that was truthful in the first place.
Right. But Moira lives in basically Krakoa's cancer that Krakoa doesn't know about. It's the only place that Krakoa can't see, and that nobody but Charles and Eric Magneto know about.
Yeah. So they meet up with her at this no place to let her know about the new council that they've formed. And Moira's not really thrilled with it. There's a lot going on here about who's on the council, why they're on the council. And one of the things she's suspicious about is that so Emma Frost was promised 3 council seats. So it was her and Shaw and then somebody else. And then
who has not shown up yet.
And nobody knows who it is yet. But Professor X is like, oh, I trust her. It'll be cool.
Because that's worked out so well in the past.
Right. And Xavier also.
Hey, you're picking up on Emma Frost.
I was thinking in relation to Xavier and his poor decision making capacity.
Yes.
For a psychic.
So it's also revealed to her too that in order for them to convince Mystique to join this council, they promised her that they would resurrect Destiny. And Moira does not like that at all. Because
hey Leia, I'm going to interrupt you to just ask, how much do you know about Destiny? Because this is
This is the
is in
first
your
time I've seen
wheelhouse.
this character. Yeah, this
Oh,
is the
okay.
first time I've seen this character.
Destiny is a precog. She existed in the late 80s, early 90s. She, in fact, raised Rogue along with Mystique. Mystique and Destiny are the first lesbian couple, basically, in comic books, even when they couldn't say that they were the first lesbian couple in comic books.
Huh.
Okay, okay, good to know.
And Destiny could see the future. She wrote a bunch of journals. It's one of my favorite Rogue in Gambit storylines is Extreme X-Men. Yes, with an X at the beginning of it, because god damn it. But where they're looking for Destiny's journals. But yes, Mystique's one great love is Destiny, who died. So this makes awesome sense. It has the queer aspects that I fucking love, and I'm just gonna throw all of it, and it's brilliant.
Excellent. Okay, that's actually good to know. That's good. That's good. It's in, because that wasn't alluded to in the storyline at all. So that's helpful. But yeah, so they promised her that they would resurrect Destiny, and Moira does not like this at all because Destiny, as mentioned previously, is a precog. She is able to see the future, and if they bring her back, she will be able to see the future and know that the mutants lose every single fucking time, and they don't want anybody else to find out about it because that's, bad. And so she's very much opposed to it. But Xavier and Magneto promise that this time it'll be different. And
no, baby, it'll be fine. I'm a different person now.
You guys ever watch?
It's a different humanity now. It's fine.
You guys ever watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Yeah.
And, the fucking Professor Weird. This time will be different. It wasn't different at all, was it, Steve? That's exactly what's happening here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, fill me full of barbecue sauce because I'm dumb as hell. Like they basically, and this is basically how it ends is they're like, this time it's gonna be different. Magneto's like, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Let's see them try to stop us this time, and that's it. That's it. That's the series. So
bring it, fate.
Yeah. So like the mutants are just gonna lose forever, and there's like 3 people who know it. So it's kind of sad, really.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be somewhat optimistic. It's supposed to put them in we're the underdogs. This is the only, future that is not predetermined, I guess, because we've somehow figured out all the different futures.
Have you, though?
Kind of like the end of Terminator 2 with the road, where, yes, Skynet has won every other time, but maybe this time it's different. And then the fact that there are subsequent sequels means it was not different.
It wasn't different at all, was it, Steve?
Right.
It was different, just not better.
Yeah. So that's House of X, Powers of X.
Yeah, that's Hoxpox. Scott, do you feel like you understand this?
It's okay if you say no.
I think I understand more, and I think it will make it an easier read.
Okay, good.
Okay,
good.
Awesome. It's now time for the second after House of X of my favorite little bit that I put in called "Where is Gambit?" If you will recall, in House of M, it was that he was just robbing something, and then Captain Marvel came and just put him in jail. That was better because he's not in this at all, despite being one of the most. Yeah,
he was not even in the background of a panel.
Yeah, this is the world's most difficult Where's Waldo game.
Oh yeah, no, it's even worse than that because if you think about it, Beast isn't in this at all. There are several very high profile, very well-known mutants that are nowhere in the new reboot. But in fact, as we talked about on House of M, where Gambit was on the cover, Rogue is on the fucking cover of this book. And again, she is nowhere.
Yeah, like Miss not appearing in this film is yeah.
Archangel is on the cover. Again, nowhere in this book.
So it's just like
basically
Deadpool couldn't get licensing for any other X-Men. It's
Right.
fine.
Yes.
Well, or they're using characters that people like on the cover, sell it, and then,
Right. And then not put them in it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's shiesty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or the artist for the cover didn't know
No
that they
idea,
weren't in
yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
was simply not informed. They were like, hey,
Yeah.
draw a cover for the X-Men. Somebody's like, I'm going to draw Rogue. And they're like, sure, buddy, go with that.
Well, and
That looks like a really good rogue. Good
Right.
job.
Yeah.
and it makes zero sense too, because before this was probably the biggest upswing of Rogue Gambit storylines, because you had the Rogue and Gambit miniseries, which led into their wedding in X-Men Gold, which led to a hugely popular series it was called Mr. and Mrs., which was the newly married couple going off and having adventures. So like Mr. and Mrs. was canceled because all of these new storylines were going to come out of PoX, and they were in the new Excalibur run, which, okay, great, but why not have your most popular, mutants? In fact, Cyclops and Jean are in like very little. They're in the assault on the Mother Mold, and that's it.
But that's okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm fine with there being Nightcrawler's also with them, so there's less Nightcrawler as well.
Oh, that's focused.
Yeah.
But less Scott and Jean. I'm all for it.
Right. I mean, there's much more Emma Frost than there is Scott and Jean, so I'm good.
Right. I mean, Emma's problematic, but I would prefer her over Jean.
Right. No, I get it. Well, Scott, do you have any lingering question about the storyline that we can answer? I'm going to caveat that we can
caveat and say, ask if we can answer them.
Right.
Because I like, if it goes into like the theoretical physics behind this, I'm at a loss.
It's a bit of a whirlwind. So,
Yeah.
that.
Are you now encouraged to go and pick it up, though?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Gonna
and
support
like we
my
said-
brick and mortar comic shop, and
Right.
Good.
But and like we said, this I don't want to put it as this may be the most important episode of RetConversations to somebody. But I mean, like, if you want to understand modern X-Men, this is the last 2.5 years of plot. You have to understand that there is an island nation of Krakoa that is internationally recognized for reasons, and all of the X-Men titles deal directly with mutants have their own government and their own island now.
Yeah.
So
which is kind of really important for trying to get back into
right.
the comic.
And I mean, I have read and love, because Rogue and Gambit are in it, but I would recommend after this jumping into the Excalibur series, not just because of Rogue and Gambit, but also because it has Psylocke, Betsy Braddock taking on the mantle of Captain Britain, which I just have always waited for. Plus they're also doing like jumping around the world things. So it's brilliant. It also talks about like, I read Excalibur before I read PoX. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I read Rogue and Gambit, I read Mr. and Mrs. Oh, and the next one that they're in is this Excalibur series. Great. And Apocalypse shows up in the first couple pages, and I'm like, what? Ever-loving fuck.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely going to help reduce the ever-loving fuck moments.
Yeah. And
even
like I said,
of reading this.
Like the informational graphics and stuff like that are fascinating. They're beautifully like in terms of visuals. It's just beautifully like written and arranged on the page. Like it's really cool. The backstory is really interesting and deep. There's just a lot of it. Like there's a ton.
There are literal like 2-3 pages between each book that just give you things that you might need to know to fill in just a little bit extra. But the thing that I kept going back to is eventually, like, they do it several times, but I went to the last one. There is a timeline for Moira's lives.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And that's super cool. And actually, so it starts from the first like 3 or 4, like the first big issue on her first few lives, and then like it just has a timeline, and you're like, oh, okay. And then as you keep going, there's more filled in the timelines, and it's super cool, because it really helps establish what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very helpful, and again, it looks like visually it's very cool to look at in general.
I will say, if you're someone like me that you're flipping through and you're like, comic, oh, there's a bunch of dialogue, like there's a bunch of words. What we are trained is that a postscript or a prescript or whatever, and so you kind of skip over it. And I did that my first read, and I was very, very lost.
Yeah, and also
this is one of those things that read the words, read the parts in between.
And don't skim it. Like that's the part.
Read the things with stars,
because they're not. Yes. They're not. Unfortunately, a lot of them are not written in a very accessible way. A lot of them are written in a very academic dialogue type style. Yeah. So it's important, contains important information, but you do have to parse it a little bit. It's not an easy read, but it is an important read, if that makes sense.
So Leia, all in all, did you enjoy PoX?
You know what? Yes and no. I did think that the concept was really, really interesting. The parts that I most enjoyed, I really enjoyed all of Moira's stuff, which I thought was really cool. And of course, give me all that Mr. Sinister you got.
Oh my God, he needed to be in more. He was so good. I'm literally going to get off of this and just be like, Jen, this is 4 pages. Read these.
Yeah, that's it.
This is your new favorite X-Men character, period. Hard stop.
The part that I absolutely hated and struggled with the most was anything that took place in year 1000. Yeah. That was the part where I was like, why is this even in here? I don't care. It makes no sense. I don't understand what's happening. That was the part where I really was kind of fighting with this book, but outside of that.
And you're frustrated with it because it doesn't pay off until the very end, but it shows up towards the very beginning. So you've got this whole thing that by the end, you're like, I don't fucking, what the fuck? I mean, the idea is that, yes, mutants always lose. And I get that, but you could have done that towards the end of the book. I did not need it through 400 some pages.
Yeah. And that was the part I think that was why I got frustrated. I'm in total agreement with you, because I was like, this is kind of irrelevant information. Why is it here? What does this have to do with anything? And it does end up having something to do with the overarching plot, but not until the very end. So it's like, well, okay, you could have just put that there, I guess. I don't know. I really don't think that part enhanced the story, honestly. If I'm being
I actually
honest.
would have done the year 100 plot, and then the Moira being killed, jumping to the next life. Leave life 6 a mystery, further, and then after you've already finished the year 100 stuff, then start the year 1000 stuff.
Right. No, I agree.
You've moved it, and it's not a lot of moving it, but at least it's moving it 100 pages so that you could be maybe less frustrated by the time that it pays off.
Right. Because it encompasses a lot of stuff that I'm like, okay, I was kind of hitting the wrap it up box on it. I was like, I don't know what this is trying to tell me.
Right. And again, the fact that you and Scott had no idea what the Phalanx was, the Phalanx was not a very popular storyline.
No, and they're very difficult to understand as characters. It's a very it's very high concept stuff, essentially.
Right. All right. Anything else?
I got nothing.
All right. Scott?
How
did we do?
More lost, less lost. I love the explanation.
Okay, good.
because it puts it in language that I, as a relatively blank slate, can understand.
Right, which is the point. Right.
Yes. That just makes me it just makes me happy, because that way I know that I did my job correctly.
Yeah. Having the who the fuck is that guy?
Right.
As opposed to having to read the book with 5 Wikipedia pages open, going, wait, what the fuck? Wait, what? Who the what?
Right.
Which is what we do for you. Honest to God, it's what we do for you.
Based on the art, who is this person? I don't fucking know. They're not named on the page.
Yep. You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, as how often that happens to me, because especially with different artists, they sometimes have different takes on the character. So you're like, okay, who's that? Is it Jean Grey or is it Black Widow? It's a fucking mystery because nobody ever addresses her.
I am currently 2 issues into Secret Wars, and I have 10 tabs of Wikipedia pages open.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Just to understand what the fuck is happening and
Yeah,
who the fuck random people are that are showing up in this.
Yeah, like a lot of these plot lines that we've done have been team up ones where it's been like a ton of characters getting together to do stuff, and there's no issue. I don't have a problem with that, but it also makes it very confusing if they don't like specifically say which characters are there. Like you're just kind of supposed to know.
I'm almost hoping that Civil War II is a relief after all of this.
Oh man, maybe we'll find out, I guess.
I mean, I at least know who the two main people are on the fucking cover. So
good start, hot start.
Right. Like, I mean, okay.
At least they're all from the same comic universe. It's not like we're talking about Deathmate.
I will say House of X, Powers of X, I was very happy with it. As an X-Men fan, it is good. It's worth reading. If you are a fan of secondary or tertiary characters, they will probably show up. I mean, it's just and be important.
Yeah.
You know, like the people that were all able to resurrect the mutants that had died are all what I would consider secondary or tertiary characters. You know, Hope Summers has become more important in modern day, but the rest of them are, you know, it seems like they are developing something where every mutant ability has a purpose. You know, it's kind of like we talked about on Graphically Novel, we've talked about the Super Friends era Aquaman, and it's like, go talk to some fish. I mean, and that's only important like once every 6th episode, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they had to write it in somehow.
Yeah, but this is building a society where everyone's mutant ability matters. And I like that. I do. I like a society being built, and I like all the things they're doing with this. And I'm excited to move on. It is rough to get through initially, and I hope that this has helped everyone listening.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I had to actually do external research on it. Like most of the time, you know, with the previous episodes, I've had to do very little of that. But this time I, you know, again, had like 6 different tabs open where I was like, okay. Like, what's who are these people?
Right. And tune in 2 weeks for fucking Secret Wars, because
hell yeah.
Oh God. I don't envy you having to write that one up.
I did not envy you to write all of this up. So we're equal.
We're even.
Yeah.
We're 100% even.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a delight.
Truly.
Yeah. Anyone else out there that has a question on a comic book storyline that you have not read, you've heard about, but you would like us to break down for you, as we mentioned before, retconversation@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook page. But until next time, when we do Secret Wars, take it away.
Get your kids to send us those book reports.
That's right. A personal pan pizza to every kid that gives us a comic book report on something that we've covered. Take it away, Vandello.
Little RetConversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vandello 2021.